This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force podcast. My name is Rachel Pasquan, and I am your host. And today I am so excited because I get to be joined by my new BFF, Olivia. And Olivia is going to be talking to us today about being a Brooklyn-based filmmaker, a producer, a casting director. She was a child actor to filmmaker, which we know that I'm going to be obsessed with talking about. And she works on music videos, the Slamdance Festival, her short film exploring childhood, friendships, and gender, and just her evolution within her career and everything that's been going on in her life. So thank you so much for being here, Olivia. I'm so excited to have you.
Wow, thank you so much for that introduction. It's very rare that like people put everything in like a nice little sentence for you, but I might have to steal this after the episode, be my new bio.
You can totally do that. So tell the audience just a little bit about yourself, how you started off as like a child actor and now, coming into your own as a filmmaker.
Yeah, of course. I was a child actor. I grew up in Colorado and then Boston, and Boston's definitely kind of a major filming hub for some of, like the Matt Damons, the Adam Sandlers, people from that area love to come back, love to kind of like take care of their own. So I ended up getting like a really great like childhood theater education, got to be in some films and some minor roles. But it kind of all eventually led me to theater school. And my theater school, Savannah College of Art and Design, has a whole like college of entertainment arts. So like performing arts, but also vis effects, film. And while I was there, I kind of realized probably like a little bit of the child actor side of me that had no control, really liked doing the film side of things where I had all the control. Um, and that kind of has led me to getting my master's in film and working on independent films, union films, and as you mentioned, our latest short film that just went to Slamdance, and eventually got me back up here to the, Northeast, which my mom is very happy about.
I mean, we love that, even though it's cold and we were complaining about that.
Yeah, we were.
1,000%. I mean, and what drew you to want to act as a child? Were you just like super outgoing? My dad would always be like, she should be in acting classes. She's super dramatic. And like, it felt like it was an outlet for those things, but like the creativity and all of that.
I mean, I think definitely yes, but like it's kind of hard to say. I know like most people kind of think about what they want to do or like how they want to be, a vet and then they want to be an architect next week. And I don't really have any memories other than like wanting to be like an actor or like be in film in some regard. I was always just very like fascinated by the whole concept of like getting to play, dress up as an adult and like be someone else, but also like 300 people work on this movie for X amount of days, and then you get this like beautifully packaged version of it that's also I appreciate the whole process. And as a kid, it was like kind of like a magical world to me. I was a big fan of The Wizard of Oz, and I was like, there's no way people made this like with their own hands. Like the set's real, like that's all real. So I just think I had a really good fascination for it. I don't really know where it came from, but there's some good home videos, like as early as like 3 years old, where I'm like making my parents sit down and I'm like singing in front of them or like doing a monologue. And I have no like understanding of why I wanted to do that, but it's always kind of been there.
You wanted to perform.
Yeah. Or yeah, I think also like reacting. A lot of people say acting is reacting, and I really like I never feel like a project's finished until like I get to see it in front of an audience and like see how people receive it.
Oh, I love that. And I mean, you were talking about the Wizard of Oz and like knowing like these things are like they're actual sets. People build them. Like these are real things. Do you have any memories from like your childhood days on sets to be like, wow, like this is how it all comes together. This is amazing.
Well, yeah, and I think it's interesting because especially when you're like little, and when you're like doing maybe a 6 hour role and you show up and cry, probably the most like one that people think of is like SVU or like Law and Order or something like that. They do a really good job at like insulating you. You're normally with the same person the whole day, and like you have to go to school and there's a tutor. And then when I was like older, like 14 or 15, I think was kind of when I was like, oh my God, like there's all these people and there's this person who's their whole job is just to restack like snacks that you can just grab throughout the day. And there's this,
It's an important
like tw
job.
It is an important job. The crafty people are normally highly respected on set, and like everyone wants to be their best friend. But even like I remember being like a teenager, and I think it was the first time I was like allowed to be dropped off and signed in as a minor because they don't always require parental stuff. And I think it was like Ted 2 or something like that, or like Grown Ups 2. I got to be a really mean, snarky teenager. Um, and it was the first time that I was like, oh my God, like there are like, these people that are helping me get from point A to point B are like 20-year-olds that want to be in film or want to be a writer someday, or like they're at Boston University. And it gave me this like amazing understanding that like everybody was there for some like passion or like, the lighting guys love lighting, which sounds really weird, but when you hear them talk about it, you're like, no, you really do. You really love it. But yeah, I'd say like 14 was the first time I think like my child brain was able to be like, oh my God, like this is a movie set. Like,
I mean, and being able to do that as a child and have like, I mean, such a different experience than so many other kids get to have, like being on actual, big film movie sets and things like that. Do you feel like that helped influence how your career has kind of gone into directing and producing and kind of how your style of directing and producing are?
yeah, I think so. I think, I was doing a combination of that and like theater, which is always like this big collaborative, like ensemble, like labor of love. And I now find like a lot of my favorite films and the films I like to produce the most tend to be with people that have like really idealized and kind of like sat down and they really know what the movie is, and you get the whole crew together and you can see that there is this director leading the ship, and it's this like beautiful experience and everyone's like feels like a family for like a week. And so I think I ended up kind of combining those two worlds of like getting to see these really impressive like sets as a kid and being like, okay, cool, this is how like the professionals do it. Like this is how the adults are doing it. And then seeing the love and like community that theater brings, like my goal is always to kind of get right in the middle of those sweet spots, which is that everyone has a great time and like everyone feels like we're friends and like they feel like it's worth being here and they want to see the film when it's finished, but also like that we are efficient and like maintain really high levels of professional behavior and like make sure everyone's paid on time and all the other things that are just as important as morale and like feeding people well.
Well, I mean, and you said like the passion that everybody has behind their individual jobs. I'm sure that for a lot of people, lighting isn't like their passion, but it's very important. And I'm sure when they're talking about it, and they're like, but this can change the whole scene just by the
Hmm.
way that someone like the lighting on this person and this individual during this type of scene has to be like super important to them and then super important to the film, obviously, for the whole thing and down.
Yeah, and like I think any artist would tell you that you definitely like do one for you and one for them kind of mentality. And there are definitely, I'm sure, like I've done commercial gigs where I'm just like, this is a great paycheck and it's a great client and I'm really happy to have it in my reel, but like it's not, I don't wake up and it like drives me to make a vacuum commercial or something like that.
Yeah.
But then you might get the next project, similarly like the short I mentioned, where like you're getting to like work with this amazing crew and these young kids, and you like can't help but like fall in love and get invested. And then they're like, well, the lighting is really important because it's her moment, or
No,
people
and
buy into it.
yeah, but I love that. If you're I mean, that goes for any kind of career, I feel like. If you're really passionate about it and you can then verbalize how you're passionate about it and explain it to someone else, you're golden. Like
Yeah.
you get exactly what you need out of things. And so you were talking about like the short films and you've done a lot of music videos. So what was it like producing those? Is it MTV behind the scenes and all of that that we see?
That's a great
Here.
question. I don't think anyone's ever phrased it that way. That's great. I mean, it kind of depends on like the talent, the artist you're working with. I've definitely worked with some like bigger name artists, especially when I was coming up and I was like, like the assistant producer or like being a PA for some big rappers in Atlanta. I won't mention names, but I can say like one of them was, married to Cardi B for a while there. And like they tended to, I think, especially in certain genres, there is like an expectation of like how the star is supposed to act. I think like rock stars and rappers are very easily like able to kind of fall into this like false persona. Um, and they can be a little wild or like,
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, you can't bring guns to set. Actually, that's illegal on
Yeah, they're not
set.
doing that.
No, we're not doing like people have died because of that. We're not doing that. But then on the other hand, like I've worked with artists who like up here in New York, one of my favorite artists, Tony Tsunami. Uh, we did a video last April, and like he's got his like outside persona, but he also like is a big proponent of like respect and like communication and those kind of things. And so he was like the least diva person ever. And you know, he was like, let's collaborate, let's figure it out. No, I trust you, and like was always early and like would bring his friends who were like, we're just here to help out. You need me to go for snack runs, I'll do snack runs. You need me to go get water, like I'll do that. I'll be an extra, whatever. And so it really does depend, but there are definitely some artists out there that are a little they have their moments.
I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, and then, I mean, you've done a lot of these music videos and then, you wanted to move on to these, bigger stories. And so you now have a project that's featured in Slamdance, which is a huge achievement for indie filmmakers. So what was that experience like for you?
Oh my God, it's kind of been a labor of love. Me and my co-producer Chase McNaughton have kind of had like a little partnership with our writer and director Maggie Bedzina, and Christian Tezopoulos. And we've done like three films together, and they've gotten increasingly more attention or like into better festivals, and they've led to other things. But like, I think if you ask any indie filmmaker, you've got like Sundance and like South by Southwest and like Slamdance and Tribeca probably like on your list of
Yeah,
like, I just want it.
you
And
want more.
it's a little bit, yeah, like it's a little bit coming from a place of just like it's a name and
Yeah.
you've heard it your whole life, so you kind of want it. But I will say like Slamdance is really cool because they do put their money where their mouth is when it comes to like supporting their filmmakers. They have a lot of really incredible like jury prizes. They really do make like the festival a really immersive learning experience. You get to hear back from some pretty like amazing alumni. Obviously, Sean Baker was a Slamdance alumni, and he just, went on to win the Oscar. So like, it was a very cool weekend and week to be showing your film and like, especially in the indie movie space and how popular things like The Substance and like Anora are right now. There was a real like tangibility in the air. Our lead actors, who are 8 and 9 years old, Lyndon and Arabella, they came out to LA and like wore matching outfits and walked the red carpet. And of course, they were everyone's favorite because they're adorable and they're children at a film festival. But I think there's a real excitement and palpability in the air. Well, Maggie, our director, ended up winning there's a pretty coveted fellowship, the AGBO fellowship, which comes with mentorship from like the Russo brothers
Oh, wow.
and a cash prize. We ended up winning that at the end of the weekend, and we were genuinely not. We didn't think we were going to, or like we didn't think we were nominated for anything. We were just like world premiere, like let's
Yeah,
see how
you're
people
here. You're like, we're
respond
here
to
for it.
it.
This is going to be great.
So that was like a really, really cool, like validating experience. And I had already flown back to, I was already back on the East Coast and was working most of the festival. So kind of like was checking in and getting information
Yeah,
and then, um, hop on FaceTime with the kids. And so like I woke up to the news and it was really, really special. And
that's
like,
amazing. And did they show the film once during the festival or is it multiple
we
times?
actually got two screenings and like that's very kind of dependent on the festival and their program. But, we were in a shorts film block on the Monday of the festival, and then I believe I want to say Saturday, that prior Saturday night, there was a great feature film called Fanboy, which if you get a chance to see at festivals, highly recommend. It's an amazing like exploration of sports and like masculinity, but in this like very like Happy Gilmore, like it knows what it is and it knows how to laugh at itself way. And we did a double feature with them since we're a baseball movie and they're a football movie, and did a tailgate with their team and their stars, and they were also like so generous to the kids and like their time and stuff like that. But it was really fun. We had baseball cards printed out and like
Oh, that's
we're kind
awesome. How fun.
I know that one, full shouts out to Maggie and Christian there, our creative leads. They're really good with the little details of everything and like having two screenings, they wanted to bring in as many eyes as possible. So, giving people little trinkets or things to be remembered by. I think sometimes, especially in the indie space, you're going to see so many movies at the festival season. Being able to be like, these people spent money and they like gave me this just because I said I enjoyed their film is a really great way to stick in
A
people's
thousand
minds.
percent. And so the film is based, the inspiration behind it is about your youth growing up in Massachusetts. So tell the audience a little bit like about the film and subject of.
Yeah, it was so it's really serendipitous. Our director Maggie, she's 23, I'm 28. She's the same age as my little brother, and they were in the same grade together. And her older brother Colin and I were good like theater friends because there's only so many theater kids in a town. And I like used to make her Halloween costumes. Like I remember her being like a little kid. And then I went to college and she moved to LA and she's been working. And like I said, we've made three films together. So obviously we partnered back up. And we hadn't really been intending on making anything last summer, but her and Christian, like myself, we've grown up in Massachusetts. We grew up very, like with, I guess most people say, like a liberal upbringing, and still being, queer kids. I think all three of us found it hard to express in certain ways or certain expectations. And so, they kind of wrote this script loosely based off of their kind of childhood experiences of the innocence of childhood with that kind of moment that you start to have awareness of like yourself and the way other people perceive you. And then of course they sent it to me and like it was so in line with my own experience without even like really, having like shared a lot that then we were like, well, now we're gonna make this. Um, but it's not like the film ever has these moments of like innate hatred or really even like identifying the kids as queer or not queer or he's feminine and doesn't want to play baseball. It's very much like up to interpretation and like to the credit of our leads like their performances. Some people have said, oh, I came out with the assumption that she's gay and that's why she wants to play baseball and he's bad at baseball. And about other people that just have felt that it was like about a friendship falling apart and didn't really feel like that queer identity really played a part. And it's great because the whole film is that like nobody's telling these kids that what they're doing is wrong. They're just picking up on the actions of like adults around them and like other kids around them and noticing that, some things get a better reaction than others. And
Well, there also has to be such deeper meaning for individuals who are seeing
exactly.
these in the movies themselves. Like they're seeing these things in the film probably because they're identifying with them in their own personal life. And
Yeah, so like
found that.
it's cool because the film gives the audience kind of the ability to judge Addie and Michael, the characters' names, in real time. And like you said, you're gonna bring your own personal baggage with that or your own personal opinions. So like the way you might take the film might be very different than say like my 24-year-old brother takes the film. Yeah, no, he was like, is this gonna make Newburyport look bad, which is my hometown and like where we shot it. And I was like, what kind of movie do you think we're making? And he's like a like Milk and I was like a Harvey Milk kind of movie. And I was like, oh no, 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 no. And I'm like, no, this is so innocent and like and then he watched it and he was like, yeah, I was really off base.
You're like, I wasn't sure where we were going with this. We're just want to make sure everybody looks good. But I
Well,
mean,
exactly.
you said that there's like a lot of themes of childhood and nostalgia and especially friendship in the film.
Yeah.
What drew you to that over like just making it a queer-based film?
I think I think it's it's this kind of almost fun game that if like Christian and Maggie had known each other at 9, like would they have gotten in this fight? Like there's a little bit of that, like because they're such yin and yang and balance each other out well. I could see like 9-year-old thems having this kind of headbutt. So I think there's definitely like a level of realism in it for them, but like the nostalgia and it's got a very specific aesthetic. I'll send over some stills if you want, after we're done. That's very like Sandlot meets Wes Anderson.
Love that.
And our town, Newburyport, it's really walkable. It's got sidewalks everywhere. As a kid, you could bike pretty much everywhere. So it was like this really almost out of town, like time experience to grow up in. And we really wanted to take advantage of that like the houses are all colonial and they look, like they're from like the 1850s. And so
Quintessential America.
yeah, very like traditional New England Americana mixed in with this kind of more, like gentle emotional topic. And we shot over 4th of July weekend, so there's a lot of like flags out and like a lot of the very
Yeah.
American iconography. Um, but it's all shot from the kid's perspective. So like you never see any adults above the waist up because they're so little.
Cool.
And like there's no really specific time. Like people are like, it's the 1970s or it's the 2000s, and it's kind of both or neither because it's like they don't have phones, they don't have cars, they're not old enough to have any access to technology or transportation. So like
No, it's their
there's
golden
this
year.
exactly. Like there's this real beautiful innocence and like playfulness in it, that I think does lean towards nostalgia and like the way that I think a lot of people who grew up like pre-iPhone and pre like real heavy technology kind of think about like the 90s and the early
Think
2000s
about
as
that all
this
the
like,
time. You went out,
hmm
biked, you came on when the street lights came on. Like that's when you came home, the street lights came on. You had like 10, 15 minutes to get on your bike and bike home because then it's dinner and like that's what you're doing.
you can get your butt kicked if you're not home by mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was no clocks hanging around the neighborhood. Like moms are yelling for you outside. Like you didn't have phones. Like you
Exactly. I don't think I had a
go
phone
that
until I
far, you had like a
was,
2 block radius.
I think I had a phone when I was like maybe 15 or 16, but like,
I got a phone when I was 14, but 9/11 happened. So I got mine.
yeah, no, you're right. I think yeah, it might have been a little bit after 9/11, but it was like a flip phone. It was like a Nokia flip
Yeah, it
phone.
was like a huge Nokia thing. And had a pretty big, you had a T9. No one knows what that is. Look it up. It's a
I
thing.
will. I know you should, yeah. Tell the audience, go look it up. Learn something today. That's great. Um, but yeah, I think there's a real nostalgia from our generation and for people like that. And like, I think even in the parents that may have raised their kids with technology, they're now seeing the side effects of that. And there's like a push to go back and a yearning to go back. And the film doesn't really say like at one way or the other on it. It's just this time period of nostalgia and childhood innocence. And you start to realize like, like I don't want to ruin the ending. I'm trying to like speak about it, like the childhood friendship without like I want people to go see it and like actually not be spoiled because the ending's great. But there's a point where like Addie's character, Arabella's character, kind of has to make a decision on like fitting in versus her friendship. And I know when I was 9 years old, I didn't always make the best decisions.
No.
Yeah, so like, I think there's this real beautiful understanding of like friendship and like childhood innocence and like the reality and awareness that you're being perceived by others. And Maggie and Christian do it in such a beautiful way that like it is really subtle and it feels really personal and you're watching it, you're like, oh God, I remember, like
It
when
breaks.
that
Yeah.
I remember feeling like that as a little kid and being like so lost, but not having like the words for it because you're still kind of missing that like articulate vocabulary. It's a very haunting but like
Freedom.
very
Yeah.
nostalgic film. Yeah.
Freedom and the creativity of it all. And just like you had to use your imagination. Everything
hmm
was your imagination.
Oh yeah, no. And
I
like,
think when you're imagining, you did it in a group. So like other people are using their imagination too, but it's like all one collective imagination. And I'm like, I look back and I'm like, we can't do that for a project at like our corporate jobs now, but like we could come up with like a pirate ship and like how
yep.
looked at all this like in a group. So how can we not do that now? And it's so interesting. I thought about this the other day when I'm like, why are we not all on the same page? I'm like, this shouldn't be hard. Children do this.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting well, because like I think you can see it well in children too, is that they generally have like a smaller circle. They have their friends and they have their classmates, and maybe, they see their cousins 3 times a year, and they know who they are in that group, and they're very assured of it. And I think as adults, like that group expands and like relationships become difficult. And then I think, at the end of the day, like we're never supposed to consume or have access to this much information. Like our brains just aren't made for this.
No. I
And
mean,
that's why,
it's mind-boggling where we are. And I mean, you also not only do like the acting and producing, but you also like you're directing, and especially with child actors. I mean, you were a child actor, so I know that like some things have to have like come over from that experience for you. But do you find that you have like a process for finding and like directing young actors in an authentic way just because they have such a different outlook on life and like what's going on and they don't have, they do have the information overload. They have most of them have phones, but not the way that we've had the information overload.
oh yeah. I mean, I will say on this one I was just producing and Maggie was directing, but I've casted a lot of kids. I've casted babies. I did a Bad Bunny music video this 20 fall 2024, and I had to cast like 6 newborn children for it. It was a very strange week of my life.
Cute.
You're like, is he actually as small as he looks in the photos, or has he grown since then? Like, is he a large 3-monther, or like, is he, It was such a strange
You're like, these are
thing.
questions I didn't think I was going to have to ask today, but okay.
Well, exactly. And you're talking to somebody who, like, this is their baby, and it might be their first baby, and they think he's perfect. They think he's the most beautiful thing that they've ever seen in their entire lives. And that's so fair, but like it might not be the baby we need.
You're like, we're sorry, just not our baby.
Yeah, and like, one of the kids ended up showing up and she was a lot smaller in her photos and the shot they had to be in like the NICU incubators.
Oh,
So she just like literally was too physically big to put in it. And it would have been incredibly like inhumane to put a baby her size in it. And I had to have like a really uncomfortable conversation with her parents that had driven from like Stamford, Connecticut into
oh,
Brooklyn for the shoot. And like they still got paid, they still have a kill fee. Like these things do happen. And like as a casting
like we
director,
can't
it's
help it. The baby grew.
yeah, like it's not their fault. And she's lovely and they're lovely, but like, I think the mom was kind of like on the same page as me and understood, and the dad was a little, I think rightfully offended. He was like, like I don't, he kept saying things like, "No, I'm glad because I don't want her in there." And it's kind of but like in a certain tone.
Yes.
And so, it's like a 30-minute discussion that really should be 5 minutes, but we agreed on a kill fee and, they were great. And then ended up, talking to them on the phone a little bit after and talked to the mom a few months later. And she was like, we're still doing acting. And, if you ever need a kid, like, we loved your demeanor. We loved your honesty. We'd really appreciate, like, that kind of like full disclosure and, like, things just don't happen. If you ever need another kid, please let us know. And so, like, it's another relationship, you could
Yep.
be salvaging depending on how you go into it. I think as far as like the kids induce and 8 and 9 year olds are particularly that's a great age to be, but they still have a little bit of that energy.
Yeah.
I mean, part of our goal, like Maggie's whole goal as director and as our producer, her producers was kind of like a summer camp vibe. Um, and like we don't want them to feel like they're working.
They're kids.
Even with a kid actor, you can only work so many hours, but you can work them about 8 hours a day, depending on the state. And that's a lot for a little
An
kid.
hour. Yeah, that's a lot.
So some of it was scheduling and like working with our amazing assistant director, Emma Gonzalez, and like finding times where maybe, Lyndon was going to do all of his baseball shots in the morning, and then we were going to call the team in and get like close-ups of them so he could go sit, and like me and him would then like go play tag or like go play soccer in the field, and like we had water guns and like we had other sports balls, and one of the days we always had a bucket of like cold water and rags because it was like 90 degrees most of the week.
Sure, in
And
July.
so, and I told the kids that if they were really good, they could pour the bucket of water on me, like, like a coach at the end of a game. And so we did that. They thought it was a
You're
punishment,
fun.
but it was so hot. I was like, please, no, you guys can definitely
Good.
pour
We
that.
won. We won. Come on.
We
We won.
won. Let's go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But so like finding those little moments where like it's play as well as work with kids and like that was so important to Maggie. And so then it like as her producers and as her writer, and me and Chase and Christian were just like finding ways to, make the parents feel comfortable and like respected. They were basically sitting on set for 8 hours, just like watching their children. Um, and finding ways to like really get to know the kids and engage with them. I'd say like, you mentioned phones and how kids are with phones now. And like it was there's definitely a noticeable divide between, say, like our leads, Lyndon and Arabella, who are professional children actors who like travel regularly. They don't have a lot of smartphone access, as we've learned. Their Instagram accounts are run by their managers, and like, they were very like little kids. I was like, yeah, like Arabella had a fake noodle ramen kit, and she'd like make everyone ramen. It was so cool. I really wish we had had that when I was a kid.
Mhm.
But I'd say like some of the other kids, baseball teams, they had cell phones and they were like saying TikTok stuff to me. And like they told our second AD Alyssa that she had the riz of someone from Ohio and like a flat butt, but like in TikTok terms.
Okay, Ohio is a mean term and it's very offensive, but I'm like, rude guys. I'm from Ohio.
I
Like,
know like 3 or 4 of our crew members were from Ohio and they were like, what is that? Like, do you want to
like
go?
it's an insult, number one. And then I figured out what Riz was from like a 15-year-old, and I knew I was elderly when I was like, but why can't you just say charisma? And I'm like, I take it back. Why did, oh my God, I'm my mother. I'm my mother. Can't believe I just said that.
Hmm.
And I was like, so why can't you just say charisma? It's
No,
just
yeah.
Riz. I'm like, oh my God.
But they were teaching us TikTok dances and like you can see there's definitely like a difference in like perception and like
Yeah.
ability to concentrate and focus. And so like the first few days we were kind of like, put the phone down, like come play with us. Like I had a behind the scenes camera with like a little shotgun mic that I was recording with. And eventually like I was like, if you guys put your phone downs, you can use the camera and like we'll go do interviews with everybody. And then that became something they were a little more like, Miss Olivia, can we use the camera today? We want to interview each other, and like got them a little bit out of the phones and started to like hear more who they were as people. But like I think there's definitely a tech divide with kids. Their
It's
little brains love the stimulation, and fairly so. Like it
I've
probably
seen
is
a difference
awesome.
on like the state I mean, we're going to politics now, but like the state regulations where they're like no phones in schools, and now it's like a law in the state. And it's better for the teachers because now they're like, it's not us, like it's a law. What do you want us to do? And they have to take their phone. But I'm like, I can
Hmm.
tell from last year to this year without the phone, complete difference. They're asking questions. They're invested in this
Yes.
conversation. Before they were liking the Instagram posts from the school's account. And I'm like, you should not be on Instagram right now. You're supposed to be in class. Why are you on Instagram? And it's just so,
Yeah.
I'm like, they pay attention more. They're more invested in it because that's their entertainment. That's all they have.
Well, and like I think it's really easy to say like, well, like of course they want to be on phones and like of course they want to learn, but like I would have done the same thing because that's
Exactly.
how kids' brains are. Like their low frontal lobes aren't formed. They want to make impulse decisions that feel good versus long-term things. And thank God, phones were as limited as they were and they weren't allowed in schools when I was a kid. Like I think credit to my teachers for like kind of as phones were coming in, like really knowing where that line was and like I think I'd be a significantly dumber person if it wasn't for, like having teachers that were not only good about setting boundaries, but also like, guys, like you don't need something like that in your hand 24/7. Like we're gonna read Catcher in the Rye and you're gonna be fine. And if you miss
Everything's
two
gonna be
texts,
great.
it's gonna be great. Um,
I did a
but I
career
think
day and they asked me, so what was life like without technology?
you were like, we had
And I was like, I had the internet was invented. Like, how dare you?
how old do you think I
I was like,
am?
what do you, they're like, we didn't have an iPhone. I'm like, the iPhone isn't the only technology that has ever existed.
Like trains were once thought of as new technology. Like
You guys
let's
make me
let's
feel like I'm a cave monster that's just come out. And I'm like, oh, like a phone. I'm like, no, we had phones. They just didn't have the internet on them, but we also had the internet.
or like screens the size of your palm. No, my cousin's 14 and he's the exact age that I was when he was born. And he says things sometimes and I'm like, I'm so old, I need to go take myself out back. Like I'm like, yeah, that he does not think I'm cool. I need to go.
I get a lot
Yeah.
of sad, like the sad head shakes, like the
I know. I complimented his pants like 2 weekends ago. We were dog sitting for my aunt and my uncle, and they came home, and I was like, "Thatch, like those are really cool pants. Like I really like them." And he was like, "Thanks." I was like, he's never gonna wear those again."
he's like, nope, they're going far, far away. They're in the bottom of a drawer. We're never gonna see them. You're like,
Yeah, I did get some cousin points because we're having our engagement party in a bar in Brooklyn, and like he can come. They're gonna put X's on his hands, and they're not gonna. He looks so 14, like nobody's gonna serve him a drink. And he was like, "I can go in a bar." I was like, "Yeah, dude."
you're gonna
So
have the best time. You take those X's and walk around.
yeah, you walk around, you meet some 20-year-olds. Maybe you'll meet a drag
That for
queen.
you. Just get discovered. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Along with your film, though, you also got a major sponsorship, which is a huge deal. Again, just from not just only being in the festival, but you got Kodak to sponsor your film. So how did that
Yeah.
come about? Like it's Kodak. It's a household name.
I know. It's really cool getting to work with them and like to say that like I know the guys at the lab in New York and like we shot my our engagement photos on 35 millimeter and Super 8 film and like
Oh, that's cool.
we developed through them and they were like, we're gonna get, like, we're doing a discount. I was like, we don't need a discount. They're like, you're doing a discount. And like, getting to drop off stuff at the Kodak lab feels very like almost of a like a forgotten time. Film is coming back in a really cool big way,
I
but
know. I'm like, they're like, you turn the dial here, and I'm like, I know how to use a. Who
yep.
think I know how to dial the camera? Like this was my generation back on trying to teach me how to use a disposable camera.
I know. Me and my fiance travel a lot, and we run like a 35 millimeter Instagram account mainly because we get a few local accommodation discounts or something like that. And I had someone on my post, like a 14-year-old, trying to explain 35 millimeter cameras to me, and I was like,
This is what we had. We had panoramic before you guys ever had cell phone video. We didn't do videos.
exactly. And like my dad was a director of photography for Nath Geo, so like I grew up with cameras. So I was like, do not mansplain
Yeah.
this to me, little 14-year-old from Wisconsin. Obviously I didn't say that. I was like, oh, thank you so much for your feedback because you don't get in fights with
Yeah.
kids on the internet.
They are not the ones you want to get bullied by. They are mean. They'll be like,
No, they're really scary. There's a middle school across from my house in Brooklyn, and the middle school girls, oh, like we're all scared of them. Me, the bodega guys, our neighbors, we're all like, stay on their good side.
yeah, no, they're gonna rule the world.
They're
They're
ruthless.
they are. They don't care. Then they just have they don't care. That's the thing. There's no sense of caring.
No, yeah, it's wild because it's also a STEM school, so sometimes you hear them talking and you're like, you are so
Smart. You're like,
smart. And then they'll like turn around and you tell the bodega guy he's like, like a gay slur. You're like, "Oh, okay. And we're back. We're back.
and we're here. We've come full circle.
We're back full circle. But yeah, speaking of Kodak, and all of that, I mean, it's kind of a cheat code and like full shout out to any indie filmmakers, like totally do this. Highly recommend doing it. But they have a sponsorship program for film students, um, which I took advantage of when I was in grad school and I shot my first film on 35 millimeter, um, which is called Remnant. It was I'll give my team, but it was directed by Christoph Schar and DP by Rocco Salerno. And Kodak gives all students a 20% discount if they approve your project. Yeah. Um, and so what we ended up doing to kind of get the sponsorship is going back to my old teachers. Me and my co-producer Chase both went to Savannah College of Art Design and reached out to some of our old producing mentors and professors and was like, hey, is there anybody like you really, you see promise from or you get your eyes on and they're doing a lot of work that like we could bring on for like a student, associate producer role. And then this person as a student gets credit, gets to put their name on a really, big up and coming film. And we get 20% off of film and processing and scanning. And we ended up getting connected with this incredible student producer, Chelsea Knox, who is at SCAD. And like, I'm a firm believer in like turning around and helping out those from your alumni kind of network. In art school, you hear all the time, like your
Absolutely.
peers
Yeah.
are going to be the people you work with the rest of your life. And it really is true. So it was really cool to get her involved. And then through that, Kodak was very intrigued. And I think they like the giving back kind of atmosphere of it all. So we were able to get approved um, and bring them on. And then I would say, like, also the other kind of link to it is our DP, Kai Dixon, who is another SCAD alumni, has shot multiple projects with Kodak and was one of their student recipients of a Kodak grant a few years ago. So I'm sure that didn't,
Amazing.
it probably didn't hurt.
But still, it's a huge thing. Kodak it's a household name, like I said. Like it's a big.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like I do encourage everyone to shoot on film because they are like some of the nicest people in the world.
I mean, you have
And
to
they
love that too. Like when like the heroes are actually like really, really nice, and you're like, this was enjoyable. It wasn't just big corporation taking over. Like they were actually like really lovely. So my final question before we wrap
yeah.
it, I ask all of my guests are, if you could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be?
Ooh. Mm, mm. That's
Right?
interesting.
Different.
I think that's interesting. My frontal lobe formed fully 2 years ago, and it's changed
Love
my perspective on a lot of things. So I think that's part of it. But like I think I would say that like there are times that you're gonna be really sure of what you're doing and like really confident, and there are gonna be times where you are really lost and like really confused. And that both of those are good. And as somebody who, loves control, I think being able to find comfort not only in like success and collaboration, but also like in chaos and struggle is a big part of the artist process. And that she can probably, give herself a little more slack and a
Or
little more
no
credit
grace.
where credit's due. Yeah, it's okay to, be afraid and it's okay to uh not want to take the jump off the cliff and take the jump off the cliff anyways.
I love that though. And I'm so glad
Thanks.
your frontal lobe developed. So see, now you
I
can
know.
be like, God, look at that.
I am afraid of cars now. I hate being a passenger in cars now, but that's
It's a different experience.
it's
Once
a
you
different
men
experience.
never have to worry about it. Their frontal lobes never develop, so it's totally fine.
I know. My poor fiance is so nice. Like we'll be driving in Brooklyn. I'm like, stop, 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 slow, slow, slow. Like,
He's like, we're fine. Nope, nope, nope. 10 feet
he's
back.
like, we're 4 car lengths away from that car. I'm like, I don't care.
No, we need to stop. I get
We're
that.
going to die.
It's a scary time out there, guys. All right, we're doing the best we can.
We are doing the best we can. But this has been so lovely and
Doing this.
really just
So nice
incredible.
talking to you. Plug yourself where people can find you, where they can find the film.
Oh, yeah. So you can check out Deuce right now, I think for like another 3 more days on Slamdance's virtual festival every year after the in-person festival. They do all the films online so that you can access them. Otherwise, check it out, deuceshortfilm.com. We are still waiting to hear what the rest of our festival schedule for the year is going to be looking like, but we should be popping up a few more times in LA, hopefully popping up a few times in the East Coast, maybe a little like southern visit. So there will be places you can go and see it in person. And then, yeah, if you want to find me, either check me out on Instagram at Olivia_battles or at my website for that sounded really official. At my website for like official requests, which is, let me confirm, I've got the, it's just Battles Film Casting at battlesfilmcasting.com. You can see all of our recent work up there. You can see some of our live stream work. And obviously, if you need a producer or a casting
Reach
director,
out.
yeah, reach out.
Reach out. Definitely watch the film. It's amazing. I saw
Oh,
it. It was phenomenal. I cried. So,
yay!
I had a moment. So have your moment. It's excellent. And I'm so excited for everybody to learn about this, but also be able to view this film because I think it's really special. It's going to be really
Oh, yes, me too. I'm really excited to just continue to see people's reactions to it and like see their reactions to Arabella and Lyndon because, like I said, they're so cute.
so cute.
But I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday. It's
Thank
such a
you.
lovely day out here in New York. It's cold, but the sun's out, so I'm gonna take
Getting
it.
there. All
Yeah.
right. Thanks, Olivia. And we'll talk to everyone next week.
Yep. Bye, y'all.